The eCom Seller Summit was created to prove that with the right tools and training, anyone and everyone can make money in e-commerce. So many people want to try their hand at e-commerce, selling on eBay, Amazon, Shopify, and more, but they're afraid they won't be successful. This summit will show you that there's many ways to do e-commerce, and there are many platforms you can explore because e-commerce really has no limits. It really can pay your bills, and e-commerce never sleeps. There's nothing like waking up to profits from getting sales all night long. My name is Nicole Whitlock, and this is the eCom Seller Summit.
Hello, this is Nicole Whitlock with the eCom Seller Summit, and today's key feature speaker is Nathan Hirsch. Nathan has an amazing e-commerce and entrepreneurial background and story, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'm going to let him tell a little bit about himself and his journey that he's been on as an entrepreneur and also a previous e-commerce seller. So Nathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be back, great to support the summit, and I feel like every time I'm talking to you, I'm working on something different.
Yeah, no, I think the last time you were in the middle of getting ready to start outsource school. So yeah, which is another amazing resource for e-commerce sellers. So can you tell them all a little bit about your background and your story and your journey? Because I think it's just awesome to hear.
Yeah, so I mean, I started off as a broke college kid, looking to make extra money on the side. I mean, my parents were both teachers growing up, and I grew up with the mentality to go to school, get a real job, work for 30 years, retire. And I honestly wanted no part of that. I remember having summer jobs, winter jobs, and just hating working for someone else, kind of getting a glimpse into what the future would be if I had to go out and get a real job. And I just started hustling. I had started buying and selling people's textbooks, competing with the school bookstore, to the point where I got a cease and desist letter from my school telling me to knock it off, and they were going to kick me off campus if I kept selling textbooks. So I was actually making some decent money doing textbooks, so that was devastating at the time. But I had sold some of these books to Amazon, and this was 2008, 2009. Amazon was bursting onto the scenes. A lot of people didn't know what Amazon was, or they thought it was just for books. And Amazon was starting to get into different products. And I was always like looking for deals on like video games and stuff online. I was a typical college guy. And I came across this deal site, and I thought, what if I drop ship from this deal site to Amazon, and I would just make the margin of what I bought it for what I sold it from. And I did a few test orders, and it went better than I could imagine. I was just making like $5-10 an order, doing very little work. And I just started spending 8 hours a day finding products, listing products, creating systems for this dropshipping business. And before I knew it, I was running this $1 million dropshipping business out of my college dorm room, and hiring my friends, my fraternity brothers, making every possible mistake that you could make as a young entrepreneur. But that kind of led me into hiring, because I had this business that was growing. I saw potential. All of a sudden, I had a way to not have to get a real job in the future. I just needed to hire help because I couldn't balance everything. I couldn't go to school and have a girlfriend and have friends and go to parties and run this business and work weekends. So a buddy of mine introduced me to virtual assistants, and that really changed my life. I built what I called my VA army, a team in the Philippines to do everything from placing orders from our manufacturers and our retailers to customer service to changing prices. There wasn't a lot of Amazon software back then, so it was a lot of manual work. But as we're growing this Amazon business, we start off, my business partner and I, Connor, who I added along the way, he was one of my first employees that I made my partner. At first, we thought we'd take down Amazon and be the next e-commerce giant. At some point, we realized that wasn't going to happen, and Amazon was making it harder and harder for drop shippers. So we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and we had all these VAs, all these freelancers that we were hiring from around the world. And we started talking to other e-commerce sellers and realizing they needed graphic designers and writers and customer service reps. So we started offering our part-time people or people that we were using seasonal to other sellers. And they loved this because they would email us and say, hey, I need a customer service rep to work these hours. And we make an intro, or I need a graphic designer, and we make an intro. And we would just make a percentage of what that virtual assistant and freelancer worked. And that kind of morphed into its own business that we called Free Up, that I know you're familiar with, that eventually surpassed our Amazon sales and became our full-time focus. And we kind of set out, instead of like loaning our virtual assistants out, we created a marketplace where we would vet VAs and freelancers before they were on the platform and offer them to e-commerce sellers, and eventually more than just e-commerce sellers. So to kind of skip ahead a little bit, we scaled this over 4 years. We got it to doing about $12 million a year before one of our customers actually acquired us in 2019, at the end of 2019, which was kind of crazy. And we could talk about that more if you want. But as you know, a pandemic hit shortly after that, which was pretty wild. And we started Outsource School as a kind of a way to buy us time and to figure out what we really want to do next. Outsource School, we are teaching people our hiring process that we use to scale all our companies and hire great talent. And over those 2 years, we started to kind of reflect on what we liked, what we were good at, what we could do outside of the virtual assistant space. And we've always had a passion for finances, whether it's personal finances or business finances. It's one of the reasons we were able to sell Free Up and pass due diligence. We had immaculate bookkeeping from day one. And for a short period of time, when we were experimenting becoming consultants, and we quickly realized we hated doing consulting, but we the first thing we would do with all our clients is revamp their bookkeeping and make sure they could really understand their numbers. So that kind of gave us the idea to offer a bookkeeping service to the e-commerce industry for e-commerce sellers, e-commerce agencies, e-commerce coaches, and help them really understand their numbers and build a bookkeeping business that's built by entrepreneurs, not by bookkeepers, to really help people understand their numbers better. So right now I'm focused on Outsource School and eCom Balance. And that's kind of the short version of how I went from a bookseller to a drop shipper to Free Up to Outsource School to eCom Balance.
Your story, again, I always stand in awe when I hear your story and the phenomenal things that you've done. This is a journey that, like, most of us would be like, I wish I had, first of all, that level of creativity to be able to develop or create these businesses. But I guess they were all created out of necessity anyway, because of the fact you needed to solve a problem initially, and then you figured out other people found you and said, hey, I need this. Can you help me? So that is awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's a great point. I mean, really, like, Free Up I built because we wanted access to talent as we were hiring, and we wanted a faster way than the Upworks and Fivers. And with eCom Balance, we always had to find internal bookkeepers that were way more expensive because we could never find a bookkeeping service that really understood our business and could talk to us like entrepreneurs and not like bookkeepers. So I think those make the best businesses.
Yeah, they do. Because then, you know the journey and the life cycle, and you know the problem that you're solving very, very well. So with this latest business, this new business and your journey, I will say there was one other thing. I didn't know when you sold Free Up, that it was bought by one of your customers, which is totally awesome. Totally awesome. I think that's amazing. But in any case, on this journey to getting to where you are now with eCom Balance, what ultimately made you decide to create eCom Balance, and what is the thing that you're seeing out in the industry that is the different problems that e-commerce sellers are having and that eCom Balance solves?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you that we just had this great idea one day, but really it was 2 years of I don't want to say frustration. I think Connor and I were both itching to get into some new industry, something outside of virtual assistants and freelancers, something that we enjoyed and we understood and that would help people. And through just a lot of brainstorming, a lot of meeting up, a lot of coffee shops, and throwing out a lot of really bad ideas, we came up with the idea of a bookkeeping service. And from there, we didn't just hit the ground running. We did a lot of market research. I think we interviewed 150 e-commerce sellers over like a 40-day period. I was
Wow.
posting on Facebook. I was setting up phone calls. Any e-commerce seller that was willing to give me 15 minutes of their time, we wanted to learn what their bookkeeping setup was, who the major players in the space was, what they liked about their bookkeepers, what they hated about their bookkeepers. And we tried to learn every little thing. And we realized there's a big market. I mean, if you think of like businesses that you like, we like recurring revenue. We like gigantic markets. We don't want to create a market. And if you think of free up, like hiring is a big market. If you're an entrepreneur, you probably have to hire. If you're an entrepreneur, you probably have to do bookkeeping. So it expands to everything. And are there big players in the space that are getting a lot of funding? That's another sign for us. So if you look at FreeUp, they had Upwork and Fiverr, which went public right when we were launching FreeUp. And with Ecom Balance, you got Bench, you got Pilot, you've got a bunch of companies that are getting a lot of venture capital money, which means there is a market. And if we can take out a sliver of that market, and if we can figure out how to do it better than them, which we think that we can, that can be a big opportunity. So it's still new. There's still a lot of work to be done, but that's kind of how we looked at it from deciding whether we wanted to invest all our time and money into Ecom Balance.
Well, I want to say with all those interviews, I'm sure it revealed to you what some of the biggest challenges are for e-commerce sellers outside of any challenges that you experienced personally as a seller yourself. So what were a couple of the biggest challenges that you heard over and over again that was frustrating or annoying or problematic for sellers that you think, okay, if anyone is watching, if you're a seller, don't do these things or do these things. So what would you say those are if you were to name at least 3 to 5?
Yeah, so this is how a lot of people run their bookkeeping. This is how we did it in our Amazon business. You work throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, you put everything together, you send it over to your accountant, and they put your books together and they file your taxes. And that just doesn't work. You don't get data to make week to week, month to month decisions. And what we did with FreeUp that we set up from day one, which is how every business should be set up, is the month ends within 10 to 15 days of the month ending, because you need a little bit of a buffer for all the banks to reconcile and all that. Then you get a report, you get your P&L, you get your balance sheet, you get your cash flow, and then you review that with your business partner or your leadership team, and you see, how did this month go? How does this month compare to the same month last year? How does this month compare to last month? And then you make decisions based on the numbers that you're actually seeing. And if you're not doing that, it's very hard to make good business decisions. You're really just guessing month after month. So that's step one, is whether you use Ecom Balance or another service, you have to be doing monthly books. You can't just be dumping stuff to your accountant at the end of every quarter or the end of every year. And most accountants, and there are some great ones out there, aren't equipped to do your monthly bookkeeping. They're great at tax, they're great at consulting, they're great at giving advice, but making it a tag team effort between a bookkeeping service like ours and a great accountant, that's what makes the difference. And having them work together and really create a good bookkeeping team for your business. So that's kind of the first one. The second one is doing sales right on different marketplaces. And this is why there's software like A2X. And this is why having an e-commerce bookkeeper that actually understands e-commerce and knows what's going on is so important. The amount of e-commerce sellers that mess up taking net sales versus gross sales is insane. You have to know what kind of fees you're paying and what you're actually getting from the marketplace. So that's number two. Number three is cash flow. And we see this with a lot of our bigger clients that might have seasonal products. You need to plan out your cash flow 12 weeks in advance. So you need to know, hey, during the slow time, am I going to be able to cover payroll and buy inventory and have money in the bank? Because most e-commerce businesses don't go out of business because they're not profitable. They go out of business because they're not managing their cash and they just run out of cash. So having someone that's not only doing your P&L, but also your cash flow, incredibly important. And the last thing I'll kind of ask there, or I'll kind of add there, is segmentation. If you're selling different brands or different products, you need to know how much your products are actually making. You might have 5 products and 4 of them are losing money, but your business is making money because that one product is making money. So you need to really understand where you should be spending time and energy and money, and how that breaks down in your products or your brands or even different marketplaces. You could be spending 50% of your time trying to master Amazon UK when really that's 5% of your net profit. So those are all just some important factors that people need to consider.
That is gold. And I hope that those of you that are watching this session, that you write that down, because if you're not paying attention to those things in your business right now, you at least need to start. This would be a good time to begin the process of organizing your business and structuring your business so you can start paying attention to those 5 points. So for new sellers that are just starting off in the journey, you remember we all started new. What's 1 or 2 tips that you would give them that they should, in addition to what you told about the the problems that you saw out in the industry? Like we know that they should definitely be reconciling their business, their stuff at the end of each month, or at least for some people, reconciling before the end of the month because you really want to know what's happening. Is there any other things that you might tell a brand new seller that's maybe just now getting into the game that they should, not do? Maybe there's something they shouldn't do.
Yeah, I definitely recommend waiting till the end of the month before doing your bookkeeping. By the way, stuff just doesn't work if you try to do it mid-month, with some exceptions. If you have, if you're trying to predict inventory and stuff like that. I mean, my key, and this was a huge thing with FreeUp, is get your bookkeeping set up right from day one, and you shouldn't be doing it. I mean, first of all, most entrepreneurs are not good at bookkeeping. And you're just going to have to redo it later, and it's going to cost you way more if you're doing it every single month. And second, you want accurate books from day one. Even with FreeUp, before we were profitable, we had a bookkeeper in place that the month would end, we'd get the report, we would review it, we'd go through our expenses, we'd see what decisions we could make. And setting that up front, if you're serious about being your business, about running this business long term, is so important. And you're going to thank yourself later times 1,000. I mean, with my Amazon business, I did my own books and they all had to be redone. And it was chaos. It took forever. It was expensive. And I kind of learned that lesson and applied it to FreeUp. And then when we went to sell FreeUp, we had all our books going back 4 years, 100% accurate from day one. And that's going to help you so much. And it's going to help you present it to buyers down the line. And it's going to build trust when you really understand your numbers. When you have an initial phone call with a buyer and what you say is actually what's on your income statement and your balance sheet, that builds trust. So get it set up from day one. If you can't afford eCom Balance, find another service, find an internal bookkeeper. But one way or another, you should be focused on growing your business, not doing your bookkeeping.
That's a great tip. And I would agree. Okay. So are there any other things? Is there anything coming up in the future that you want to mention around eCom Balance that maybe is just a heads up that's coming up in the future, even if it's the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, we're hiring. We have 2 great bookkeepers here in Colorado that are kind of leading the charge, plus a bunch in the Philippines. These are people that have 10, 15 years of experience. We're building great processes. We have a client portal. We have an affiliate program that you get $50 a month reoccurring for as long as someone's a client if you refer them to us. And if you buy the all access pass, you get 2 free months of bookkeeping from eCom Balance. So we're excited about it. We have a lot of work to do. We're systems and process people. So we're kind of deep in the weeds trying to make this as efficient and hands-off as possible for our clients. And we're just overall excited about it.
I'm excited about it as well. I think we should pull back the covers when you guys are ready to show more in the future. So, I think the tip of setting up your books right from the jump, okay, if you're getting into this e-commerce journey, and if you're not doing that right now, this year, make that a point of something that you need to do. So I didn't know if you wanted to mention any other operational things, just some basic operational things that that will help make sure that the books are well organized or well structured. Are there any operational things? Like the first thing that comes to mind is like, okay, guys, you should have a separate banking account for your business, one that's separate from your personal. So just basic operational things is there anything else that you want to mention?
Yeah. So, I mean, not separating personal and business, incredibly important. Don't commingle. If you're doing it, stop doing it immediately. Another thing that people don't think about that affects the bookkeepers is what bank you use, what credit cards you use, and what your setup is matters. Like a lot of times, simpler is better. Having a bank that's compatible with QuickBooks, having a credit card that's compatible with QuickBooks, not having more credit cards than you need or more bank accounts than you need, making sure you have the right tools like A2X to connect from Amazon or wherever to your bank accounts. Create a good setup that makes it easier for other people. At the end of the day, that's going to make it easier for you and it's going to save you money. I know sometimes people will find some random bank that has some great promotion and interest rate that no one else is using. And long term, it's just not worth it. So simpler is better.
Okay, that was a good tip. All right, yeah, keep that in mind. So I am so grateful for the opportunity to talk to you, Nathan. I'm glad that you had a chance to tell us a little bit about eCom Balance. We look forward to hearing more information in the future about eCom Balance. And guys, if you are watching this session, there is information that is somewhere on this page about Nathan and also about eCom Balance. And like you said, if you grab the All Access Pass, you will get 2 months free, which will be a benefit to your business. So if you're looking to grow and scale this year, this could be an opportunity for you to be more efficient and to get better at knowing what your true numbers are, because that's extremely important, knowing what your numbers are so you can make data-driven decisions. So Nathan, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, this has been another masterclass session on the eCom Seller Summit. We are going to say goodbye for now. Thank you.